Oh baby, oh baby, I am who I am. My name is my name. Welcome into another video, another episode of Shooting the Shit with Sands. If you're new to the channel, this is where I beg you to like, subscribe, and comment. If you like the content, hey man, give me a like, give me a follow. Tell me you like it in the comments. It makes creators feel good. I know you feel like you're lame if you comment on people's YouTubes. I do too sometimes. And if you think I'm an idiot because I'm gonna say some wild stuff, I'm not a hot take guy, but I'm gonna say some stuff that you are going to disagree with. Somebody out there is going to disagree with me a lot in this video. Welcome into the channel. So let's get right into it. So what I wanted to talk about today was the question marks of all the first round running backs, because I think this position this year is so weird and so interesting, because I think there is a lot of, I wouldn't say risk at this position, but there is a question mark with almost every single pick at the RB position that are going high ADP. I'm just going to go through the top 9 guys and tell you why you can, not should, but you could doubt these guys. I should also mention that a lot of these opinions are based off how I think the wide receiver is the meta in fantasy, specifically this year, and I will drop that video tomorrow. But RB1, Christian McCaffrey. What is a question mark with Christian McCaffrey, right? I think it's the injury history, and that's about it. Because he's played 27 games the last 3 years, and I'll give him credit. He played all 17 last year. But the 2 years prior to that are 10 games. He only played 10 games in 2 years. So I'm not saying that you have to be fully concerned about it because he just played a full season. I would just be wary of it. I would load up on the handcuffs for Christian McCaffrey. You get what I'm saying? I have no problem with you drafting Christian McCaffrey or myself drafting Christian McCaffrey at all in the first round. I just rather have some of these receivers. Now, another thing you could actually bring up is, well, what about Debo and Trey Lance coming back? Like, don't they take away carries? I think that just, no, because I think the Debo Samuel thing kind of gets over exaggerated a little bit. I think he gets a lot of carries, but I'm saying they're in certain spots, and for a wide receiver, it's almost like you didn't expect it, so it looks like he's getting so many carries. And with all their injuries at running back, they had to give the ball to somebody. But when Christian came in there, I mean, you didn't see Debo Samuel running the ball like he was. I mean, there were some games where he was getting 8 to 10 carries. And yes, the Trey Lance thing is real with him being he was getting a lot of design quarterback runs, but I'm not worried about that with Christian, mostly with his pass game production, mostly with just how good he is. And that just saves his body for later in the season where he's not getting hurt. So I have no problem with Christian McCaffrey. But we're going to get into some dudes like this next guy. I hate to do it to him, man. Austin Ekeler. This is, I'm not a hot take guy, I promise you. I follow data, and that's all I do. This is the year of the regression of Austin Ekeler. And now, before you turn off this video, hold on. Regression, not bust. Regression. And if you're taking a guy in the top 3 of the draft, and he ends where I think he will end around RB 8 to 11, that isn't me saying something that bold, but that is a regression of some sort. Correct? There's just a lot of things. Oh, and to give myself validity, by the way, I drafted Austin Ekeler 3 years ago. What did I do after that? I kept Austin Ekeler. I can only keep for 1 year in my big league. Okay, so what did I do the next year at number 3? Drafted Austin Ekeler last year. I am a Austin Ekeler guy. But let's look at the data when running backs start turning 27. Put the chart on the screen, and for Spotify listeners, I will read it out, okay? So this is a chart that has the number of players, their age, and the percentage of them that made it into the top 5. Let's just go to age 26. 115 running backs, only 9.6% make it in the top 5. That's the highest percentage on this chart, is age 26. But you get to age 27, 104 running backs at age 27. 2.9% make it in the top 5. 90 running backs at age 28, 7.8% make it into the top 5. 74 running backs at age 29, Derrick Henry, 1.4% make it in the top 5. And there are more things in this chart that I'm basing this off of. What about that he was 15th out of the top 15 running backs in carry percentage? What about the fact that if Isaiah Spiller doesn't get hurt last year, he is involved in the offense? They were preaching that he was going to get a lot of work during the offseason before last year, but then he got hurt with that nagging ankle injury or whatever happened. And then now you're seeing Joshua Kelly take carries. And let's not forget Mike Williams and Keenan Allen missing 13 combined games. I'm not saying the Keenan Allen one is fluky. I'm not saying any of it is fluky. Let's not forget that Quentin Johnson just got drafted to play that slot receiver spot from TCU. And what do those wide receiver injuries have to do with Austin Ekeler? It has to do with his 127 targets. The fact that he had the second most catches ever in a season by a running back. And in PPR formats, this really, with Austin Ekeler, it is a scoring format type of thing. Because how long are we going to depend on Austin Ekeler to just fall into the end zone? When have you seen Austin Ekeler make a big play? And if you think Austin Ekeler has made big plays, what if I told you he had as many 20-yard rushes, 20-plus yard rushes as Latavius Murray, as Kenyon Drake, who may not be in the league anymore, as many as orthopedic Rashad Penny, who didn't play because he hurts his knee every year. His ligaments are gone in his knee. They've evaporated. That's what we're looking at. You're looking at a dude who does nothing inside the 20s. Nothing. And I get it. If you're in a full-point PPR, my little bum league, my 10-man bum league, PPR league, full point, I'll take the little dump-offs in the backfield and get a point. I get it. But overall, I'm not dependent on that. I refuse to depend on Austin Ekeler to get 107 catches again, to get 127 targets again, and then fall into the end zone and get 18 touchdowns? 18? You think that is sustainable? I do not, and I laughed. I laughed at those people who thought it was not sustainable last year. And this year, I am one of those people that knows it is not sustainable. I know it's not. So let's knock him down to 12 touchdowns. And you're like, 6 less. Guys, Christian McCaffrey had 13 last year. I'm giving him 1 less touchdown than Christian McCaffrey. Let's knock his catches down to what he had the year before last, 70. That is an amazing year for a running back, 70 catches. That's the difference between him and Tony Pollard. And you're like, well, I liked Tony Pollard last year. I got Tony Pollard in the 6th or 7th round last year. Once again, this is the beginning of the regression. He is not going to bust. In my eyes, he is not going to bust. But I will write it in Sharpie. If you take this guy in the top 4 picks, he will not finish top 7 at his position. He will not. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. There's only 2 things you can be in fantasy, right or wrong. And I'm willing to be wrong on this one because I'm standing 10 toes down on it. That last one got a little heated. I'm not going to lie. Okay. On to RB3. Another guy I will not touch, and I'll give you all the data to not touch Bijan Robinson. Data. I am not here to be an outlier, to be a genius, to go against all the data I've seen in the past with rookie RBs. I got a lot of examples because there's 2 ways this goes with rookie RBs in general, much less taking a guy in the first round in the top 5-6 picks. That is crazy. One of 2 things happens. You start off super hot. And then what happens, Breece Hall? What happens, Dameon Pierce? Your body breaks down. And why is that? Because even if their body doesn't break down, a Kareem Hunt saw Damian Williams get more carries. They start, real playoff teams start relying on veteran players later in the year. I'm not going, Bijan Robinson's going to tear his ACL like Breece Hall. That would be horrible. I'm not saying that. I'm saying he's coming off 3 years of playing 12 games. And then prior to that, he's coming off 4 years of playing 8 to 10 games. I've had this take for 3 years, and he is going to be one of the best running backs we've probably ever seen in my eyes. Bijan Robinson, that is. I just won't do it. Their bodies can't last for 17 games. Or it's the exact opposite. They start off real slow, 6 points, damn. 14 points if he falls in the end zone. And then you go, holy shit, he starts balling out at the end of the year. Why is that? Javonte Williams, his rookie year, Melvin Gordon lost his job. Rashad Penny gets hurt. Kenneth Walker goes crazy. Even a guy like Cam Akers, his rookie year 3-4 years ago, popped in late in the year and had 2 top 10 finishes and the top 15 finish at the end of the year. I'm not saying I hate, or even a Rachaad White last year on my squad on the Bucks. He won me a lot of weeks. And I'm not saying don't draft rookie running backs in totality. I am telling you right now, do not draft them in the first round. So I go and look it up, right? This is better than me going on football or Pro Football Reference, and I have to read these stats off. I got a Michael Fabiano article over the last 23 years in all PPR formats, all of them, right? I'm saying all of them like there's not only 2. Last 23 years, 51 running backs have been drafted in the first round. 4 of them have had more than 300 points. That's Derrick Henry. Why are we judging him against Derrick Henry? Because you're drafting him RB3 right now. That's his ADP on every website. RB3. Only 9 have scored 250, which is Tony Pollard. There has only been 12 running backs of the 51 in the first round picked that are rookies that finish averaging over 15 points a game per week. Now, you may go and look at that end rating, but it's all about a per week basis in fantasy. I don't want no roller coaster ride, bro. I want a cruise control player. That's all I'm saying. I refuse to draft rookie running backs super early. If it's before the 6th, 5th round, like Breece Hall was going crazy, and he was worth that pick in that 3rd, 4th round where everybody was taking him. I'm just not taking him that early. I'd rather get the guy that I know is going to be stashed on the bench that will eventually get work at the back end of the season. Like I said, a Rachaad White, because I knew Leonard Fournette was going to show up and be ass. Okay? On to RB4. So that's 3 guys. I got 2 that I'm not touching at their ADP respectively. I'm not touching a running back till probably pick 6 and post, and he's one of them. This guy that we're going to talk about. Saquon Barkley. Pretty easy to know why you would pick him, correct? New offense with Brian Daboll. I loved it. And what wide receivers can you make a really good bet on their health? Sterling Shepard, Richie James, who I actually like him as a talent. Wan'Dale Robinson, he's 5'7". He's one juke move away from another rolled ankle. It's like every time you put in a giant starting receiver, you're playing fucking Russian roulette. Who's getting their ankle shot today? And then there's Darius Slayton, who I think will end up being the wide receiver 1 because they have no other options. I'm not even going to talk about Kenny Golladay. That is an atrocity. An atrocity. And last year you saw the year off the ACL injury being 2021 and then going into 2022, that's the year where you're back. Like all the way back, you know? And then real production came because he had 23 touches inside the 10-yard line. He had 13 red zone touches in totality the year before, probably because they weren't getting in the red zone a lot. So I think Saquon Barkley is arguably the best value pick in the first round, aside from, picking Christian McCaffrey 1 or 2 overall. I get it. But I mean, those guys a little bit further down. I think he's arguably the best value pick in this first round. RB5, untouchable player, Jonathan Taylor. Rookie coach, rookie quarterback, plays for the Colts. All right, RB number 6. I'm not kidding. If you draft him in the first round, delete your fucking app and throw your phone out the window. Go buy a new one and break that one too. Then buy a new one, download the app, and delete it again. I'm not kidding. If you draft Jonathan Taylor in the first round, your team is dead. Dead. And this isn't based off what he did last year with the ankle injury. Do you think they're going from the 3 pick to just like a 8-win team? Shit, a 6-win team? Do you think that? Because I promise you they're not. And how many points is that offense going to score? I would love to see it. Please. RB6, one of the most consistent fantasy players out there. A guy who I pray falls to me at his ADP in the 2nd round. I really want 2 big-time wide receivers, but I don't plan my drafts out, and don't ever do it, right? Don't ever plan your drafts out. But Nick Chubb is one of the most consistent, most reliable fantasy players we have. Just go look at his season log, and this is another example of a rookie running back who came in and balled out at the end of the season, right? Nick Chubb shows up in the league averaging 3 carries per game. He ends up at the end of the season with what? 1,000 yards. It's really 990. Okay, whatever, dude. And then 8 touchdowns his rookie season. He then, for the rest of his career, is putting up 10 touchdowns, 12 touchdowns, 8 touchdowns. That's what he's done. That's just who he is. He's coming off 1,600 yards, double-digit TDs, 5 yards a carry, top 3, top 1 O-line other than the Eagles in the NFL. What else do you need to see? And then the last game of the season, Week 18, Kareem Hunt, Dearness Johnson gone. He gets a 22% target share, gets 5 catches on 45 yards, and he gets a 75% snap share. Like, what are we looking at with Nick Chubb? He has been so consistent. Yes, he's a running back. He'll miss a couple games. Most games he's missed in a season is 4. 4 games. That's it. I don't know what we're looking at. He's still in the prime of his career. I see a lot of improvements in that offense this year. I know their quarterback likes to get worked and jerked a little bit. And that's the thing. I don't have to use my morals in fantasy. It's a fantasy land. That's my point. I'm drafting Deshaun Watson again this year. I'll tell you that right now. Judge me all you want. It is a fantasy land. It isn't real. That is not a mark on my character. I'll tell you that right now. But is it fair to judge him in saying, oh, he went from a generational talent to a bum? Or was it that he went from Texas in a dome to getting thrown out there in week 12, week 13, whatever it was after the bye, in a snowstorm with receivers he really didn't get to practice with, which was his fault, obviously. But do you get what I'm saying? Kevin Stefanski, he kind of has a nice brain in his head, no? Give me all the shares of Nick Chubb. And that 1,500-yard, 1,600-yard season is with Kareem Hunt getting 160 touches. Insane, man. Insane. RB number 7, I think has some red flags. Josh Jacobs. This is why. I just don't know if he's getting traded. And I think Josh Jacobs is great. Do I think 2,000 scrimmage yards for Josh Jacobs is repeatable? No. Do I think 30 broken tackles by Josh Jacobs is repeatable? No. I don't think he's gonna have 3 less broken tackles than Derrick Henry again. No, I don't. I just don't. And Josh Jacobs has always been what he's always been. And I like the Josh Jacobs pick. I actually like him. I'm just giving you the question marks, right? If he gets traded, the way the running back position is used now, look at the Miami Dolphins, for instance. Like, they have a lot of starting quality running backs there that they just jumble together. And I'm not saying Josh Jacobs wouldn't get the bulk of the carries, but in Oakland, Las Vegas, in Las Vegas, there is no competition for carries whatsoever. No competition for snap count whatsoever. So if he's going to hold out and you draft him, you're going to be sitting there without your RB1. And don't you dare test these guys. We are in a new era. These dudes will sit their ass down. And every single report that comes out is not nearing a deal. So draft Josh Jacobs. That is a tongue twister if you want to. That doesn't bother me at all because I like the pick and I think he balled out, and he is 24 years old. It feels like Josh Jacobs has been in the league since he was 18. He is 24 years old. He will be totally fine. I'm just saying if he gets put into a precarious situation where he's, splitting carries somewhere, I think the production is going to decline, obviously. You get what I'm saying? And the thing is, there's one of 2 guys in fantasy, and don't be either of them, please. You either think a season is never going to repeat, which is dumb, or we would never have a legend to play this game, or you think every season is repeatable. And don't tell me, I told you Jonathan Taylor could never repeat that. I told you he could never repeat that. Great, man. He got hurt. I told you Cooper Kupp could never do 2,000 yards again and 20 touchdowns. He's breaking records, bro. I don't expect the greatest season ever every season. And he was on pace to do it again, low-key, before he got hurt. He was on pace. So don't think you're a genius because you're like, it can't be done again. It can't. All right, man, be that guy. I don't give a damn. Because a lot of these guys, because every time when I started playing fantasy early on, I was like, Le'Veon Bell can't get 90 catches and 1,000 yards with 15 touchdowns again every year. Every year. And if every year was repeatable, you're the guy that drafts Odell Beckham every year. I know, because I did it. I didn't do it. I'm not trying to ruin my opinion here, but you get what I'm saying. On to RB8, another just undraftable player, and I have him down as RB8 on my paper, and I don't even need to see it because I have it memorized now. He has gone down to RB9 from RB6 in like 2 weeks. Derrick Henry, once again, put the chart back up. 29-year-old running backs have never been successful in this league. It's just a fact, man. And I think Derrick Henry is amazing. And if those running backs were successful, I'm just taking a guess, a gander over to the stats that they were on elite teams. Derrick Henry's team just drafted 2 quarterbacks the last 2 years. They have no offensive weapons. Go look at the wide receiver room. You know how we laughed at the Atlanta Falcons wide receiver room last year? Go look at the Titans. Go look at it, man. I am not going to draft a 29-year-old running back, and I said this last year, I'm off Derrick Henry. I'm off of him. I was wrong, and I'm fine with it. I don't care. I am off Derrick Henry. He is just too old, and that is what I'm going off of with Derrick Henry. Old, shitty team. An old, shitty team. That's what I'm doing. He has too much work over the bulk of his career. Like, man, he touched the ball 400 times last year. 382 touches? And I can't do that. At some point, right? And he is built like the monster you think is in your closet. But I'm just saying, I can't do it. I just think it's the time. It's the time for the decline, man. I'm not a rapper. RB9, Tony Pollard. This is why he's sinking because, one, people are forgetting he broke his fibula against the 49ers. Now, I talked to my father. Not like, hey, I talked to my dad. I was talking to my dad, who is a medical professional. He's not a mechanic, some random guy, okay? He told me a broken fibula for a NFL player shouldn't be a huge deal. There is a chance of re-injury, but it's not a weight-bearing bone. Now, my father is a Cowboys fan, so take that with a grain of salt, okay? And let me go over the question marks with Tony Pollard, because there are a few there. I just don't know if they mean anything. Like, you can shit on Zeke all you want. He brought an element to that offense of bringing the linebackers into the A-gap and then open up these outside alleys for Tony Pollard to bounce outside. Now, I am not saying Tony Pollard did not run in between the tackles a lot of times. And I'm not saying Tony Pollard isn't this big play threat. I think a lot of stuff was opened up by Zeke. And with his backup running situation, they go and get Deuce Vaughn, who I think is a very good player. He's just a tiny guy, and I'm not going to sit here and compare him to Darren Sproles because he went to Kansas State and he's 5'6", 5'7", whatever it is. You saw a guy, Malik Davis, who came in during garbage time. When you saw him play, you were like, that kid's kind of good. If you're worried about it, just pick up Malik Davis in those later rounds and see what happens. That's what I would tell you to do. But those two guys are just unproven, so you don't really know what they're going to do. The real concern with him is his goal line work. Zeke Elliott was third in fantasy for the most carries inside the 10. Tony Pollard was 29th. So he's not getting that goal line work. But with those unproven guys behind him, I like the Tony Pollard pick just because all that workload that was taken away from them out of respect for what Zeke did for the organization and the franchise, I think he's getting all that. And I'm not saying those other guys aren't going to touch the ball and give him a rest, but at the end of the day, I think Tony Pollard is a great pick, mostly where he's going ADP-wise. I think he's going to get a lot more yards, a lot more touches, a lot more catches. All that production is skyrocketing to me. I would look out for that red zone, that goal line work, but at the same time, who else is going to take it? Ronald Jones? Deuce Vaughn? They're putting his little ass in there? I don't know, man. I like Tony Pollard a lot this year. Thank y'all for listening to this, guys and gals. If you are interested in more of my content, go check it out. I do a full hour-long podcast, and tomorrow I will be dropping why I, am like kind of shitting on these running backs with all these question marks, because I think wide receiver is the meta in fantasy this year specifically. This year, because of all these question marks I just talked about. Y'all have a good one. I'm out. Peace!